and let us all do we can to build a better future.
Okay, people. There was an interesting tweet that Dr. Cornel West posted yesterday at 2:45 p.m., July 10th, 2023. It already stands at 3 million views. It's been bookmarked, it's been liked, it's been retweeted, quoted, and it really says a lot about what's currently happening with this ridiculous, god-awful war that's happening in Ukraine. Now, again, there are individuals who don't have the courage to write what Dr. Cornel West has done. There are a lot of individuals who are just following along with the establishment narrative. But Dr. West wrote something that I think we all need to see. Let's not be deceived. NATO is an expanding instrument of U.S. global power that provoked Russia into a criminal invasion and occupation of Ukraine. This proxy war between the American Empire and the Russian Federation could lead to World War III, and it will. We must stop the war and war crimes, including cluster bombs used by all parties, and embark on diplomatic talks that could lead to a just peace. As the great W.B. Du Bois wrote in 1945, I seem to see outlined a third world war based on the suppression of Asia and strangling of Russia. The Democratic Party is a party of war, and Wall Street targeting Russia and China. Let us save our democracy and world by dismantling U.S. militarism at home as in cop cities and abroad, as Martin Luther King Jr. painfully reminded us. So again, this is Dr. Cornel West. Let's be very clear here. For everyone watching this right now, this is a tweet that, again, Dr. Cornel West is calling for diplomatic talks, peace talks between Russia and the United States. This ridiculous war that's taking place could cost us everything. The end of humanity, the end of us as a species. And so, of course, big-brained or small-brained individuals like Keith Olbermann decide to have a little panic attack and start spazzing out by telling Dr. West to more or less F off. Can't have world peace. Can't have peace in our time. He tells Dr. Cornel West to F off. Now, of course, when we look at people like Keith Olbermann, he is the image of the quote-unquote white liberal. And if anything, everyone on social media was dragging him for his ridiculous statements. Case in point, want to pull up this, what we tweeted out. Weak, pathetic, small, and foolish. These are words that describe Keith and why he is no longer relevant. Vote third party and break away from the two-party neoliberal establishment system. I also want to pull this up as well. No, you F off, Olbermann. I was a fan of yours for years when you were at ESPN and BSDNC. Now you're an embarrassment. Says a lot. I want to pull this up here. Pea-brained chicken hawk piece of worthless filth agitates for World War III from its Manhattan penthouse. Why not fly to Ukraine and put your money where your stupid effing mouth is at? Keith Olbermann. And of course, gotta give a shout out to Sabby Sabs. Witness Keith Olbermann's disrespect for Dr. Cornel West. It's the same disrespect he had for the black female college basketball player. Keith is the white moderate Martin Luther King warned you about. When black people don't get in line, he loses it. He's still on the plantation. Very true. And of course, we here at Hard Lens Media wanted to send him this little message too. Talking about Dr. Cornel West. He's undone his entire career by getting manipulated into helping Trump. He can completely F off. You too. Of course, he's talking to Christopher Skelly here. But we here at Hard Lens Media just said, Keith, the world is laughing at you. Shout out to Reef Breland, who actually made this laughing image of Jimmy Dore. That's the whole world laughing at Keith. Because let's face it. Let's be clear here. The white liberal, the vote blue no matter who people who sit in their fancy penthouses or estates who like to talk down to poor people or progressives or activists are and never will be strong allies. I want to pull up this video that Case Study QB found a while back where Dr. Cornel West talks about the white liberal.
Of liberals in America and in their analysis of race in America.
I think the problem often is that liberals at times tend to be spineless milquetoast, which is to say that they're not paternalistic. The degree to which they act on their convictions is often quite weak, and that they refuse to acknowledge the degree to which America remains so deeply shaped by corporate elites and bank elites in this country. The liberals think that somehow the distribution of wealth in place can provide the background conditions for inclusion of others, so that the pie would get bigger, so that economic growth by means of corporate priority can remain in place. And I think liberals are at times allies, at times they're unreliable allies. So I don't want to just whitewash them, as it were. But you've got to proceed quite cautiously with liberals.
Boy, they're not gonna like to hear you say that. That brings me to
which, okay, so I didn't want to pause that, but I mean that perfectly sums up Keith Olbermann. That's who he is as an individual. But the thing is, so many people are still suffering from Trump derangement syndrome and the problems that we saw in 2016. They've continued to carry it on, especially smearing third party candidates. And Dr. Cornel West has been getting a bombardment of smear attacks towards him by corporate media, most notably the Nation magazine, who said that, oh, Dr. Cornel West just run in the Democratic primary, even though, and this is to be very clear to everyone watching, the Democrats have said that there will be no debates and that they're going to reorganize how the entire primary will be done. So all what we would be seeing if Dr. Cornel West was to run in the Democratic Party is him once again being smeared, being yelled at, and of course, all these vote blue, no matter who sycophants, including Keith Olbermann, would be telling him to drop out of the race. So I want to pull up this video here as well, because again, this kind of once again should remind all of you the unnecessary attacks that corporate media will be doing towards third parties and why this narrative needs to be broken. So let's play this video here, just so all of you can see it.
I think the bigger problem for them, or as big, is Cornel West.
Yeah.
He is running as a Green Party candidate, and we can look back to 2016 to Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, and Jill Stein was running.
Let's actually do just that.
And those numbers tell the story.
They really do. I mean, the margin on the right there, the right of the screen, that's Trump's margin, and Jill Stein's margin in the green. Look at Michigan. I mean, 51,000 votes. Trump won by 10,000 votes. That's a big potential difference maker.
Without question. And everything is different, of course. A lot of that Jill Stein vote was a hangover from the Bernie Sanders primary fight.
And, you know, here's the thing. I'm glad I voted for Dr. Jill Stein in 2016. I was not going to support the horrific criminal actions of the DNC and Clinton campaign that denied Bernie Sanders the nomination. Dare I say it, all the people who voted green or even chose not to vote at all had more courage than Bernie Sanders did for his movement. But nonetheless, again, you're seeing all this stuff being brought up against Dr. Jill Stein of the Green Party. Jill Stein running as a Green Party candidate fundamentally showed that Americans are tired of the two-party system. Now, while she only got 1.5% of the vote, around that number, overall, her impact on the general election was not this huge monumental thing that caused Trump to win. Trump won the Electoral College. So popular vote means nothing in this country. Now, of course, Keith Olbermann, still holding on to his trauma, wants to tell Dr. Cornel West to F off. Well, gee, Keith, if you got such a problem with Dr. Cornel West, why don't you go ahead and interview him? Oh, wait, you don't have a TV show anymore. Ha!
Right, with Hillary Clinton. So that has been done away with. Bernie Sanders is now very supportive of this president, and he has been. But I think the bigger issue, other than no labels, is Cornel West and what is he going to do on the campaign trail. But again, a lot of questions about who's behind the funding behind these, and what does a unique ticket mean? Is that Joe Manchin? Maybe. Is it Larry Hogan? Maybe.
or some combination of the two. I mean,
it's a worry for the White House, and it will continue to be probably for the next year.
The reality is that there is a desire in the electorate for some other option, and that desire seems to be actually stronger among Democrats. Look at this poll from the NBC News. 45% of Democrats say they would consider a third-party candidate. Only 34% of Republicans say the same.
I think
that's fantastic that we're seeing that number change. So what can we take away from all of this? First of all, I'm only grabbing the popcorn and watching more of these vote blue no matter who people panic, spaz out, cry as more Americans identify themselves as independent. See, what the problem is, people like Keith Olbermann want to talk down to people. They want to be the gatekeepers. They want to tell everyone to fall in line, obey orders, don't challenge the system, be nice, don't cause a ruckus. See, that's the problem with people like Keith and the vote blue no matter who mindset. They're afraid of spoiler candidates. Well, listen, maybe this wouldn't be a problem for Joe Biden if he, I don't know, controversial statement here, maybe follow through with his promises to progressives. Maybe if he did something for Medicare for all or student debt forgiveness. I don't know. Maybe bail out the American people who were wrongly abandoned during the 2020 lockdowns. Maybe instead of giving countless aid, billions of dollars to a proxy war between us and Russia, I don't know, maybe call for diplomatic peace talks. Or how about this? Maybe this would be interesting. I don't know. Maybe make the lives of the average citizen that much better. But see, Joe Biden and his administration didn't do that. What they chose to do was to keep things the way they are. And by keeping things the way they are, it got progressively worse for the rest of us. What I'm telling you isn't anything new. What I'm telling you is the sad truth of the vote blue no matter who people is that they are fighting to remain relevant in a world that is moving on without them. And so they're going to once again tell you to F off. They're going to tell you to be quiet. They're going to want to censor you. They're going to want to tell you to, just fall in line. What Keith Olbermann wrote is how most of these liberals feel about progressives, third parties, and dare I say it, anyone that's part of the quote-unquote big tent of the Democratic Party. You're good with us so long as you listen to what we say. That's what the DNC and people like Keith Olbermann want to say to their entire voting bloc, which is, again, once again, leads back to a point that I've been bringing up numerous times on the show. If you're a Democratic voter, you really are seen as, lower than dirt. You don't really have a say in the primary. Your vote really doesn't matter. And your concerns, they're the least on the minds of the politicians that are in the Democratic Party. Case in point on why we need to break away from the two-party system and why now more than ever, we need to start building movements and organizations not connected to Washington, D.C. If it's not only for ourselves, but it's also to piss off people like Keith, as we should, because the whole world is laughing at that irrelevant clown who, keeps on doing the show from his penthouse, but is anybody really watching? No. Just like nobody's really paying attention to the liberals who tell you to vote blue no matter who.